Welcome back to Rare Coins Shop, where every coin could be a hidden treasure. First, we're revealing coins that might be worth a fortune right under your nose. If you're new here, don't forget to like, subscribe, and join our hunt for rare and valuable finds. Let's dive in. If I told you that one very specific penny from 1971, with a tiny D mint mark, could be worth far more than you'd ever expect, grab your magnifying glass and maybe that old jar of coins you've been meaning to sort through, because today, we're about to uncover the secrets of the 1971 D United States 1-cent coin. And trust me, this little piece of copper holds a story you don't want to miss. Let's set the scene. It's 1971. America is going through cultural change. The Vietnam War is winding down, Disney World has just opened its gates in Florida, and in Denver, Colorado, the U.S. Mint is busy producing billions of Lincoln pennies. That D stamp just below the date? That's the Denver Mint mark. At first glance, the 1971 D penny looks like any other you've seen before. It's got the classic profile of President Abraham Lincoln on the front, his serious, thoughtful face a reminder of one of the most pivotal figures in American history. Flip it over, and there's the Lincoln Memorial, standing proud and detailed, with the words, United States of America, arching above it. But here's where it gets interesting. Though more than 2.9 billion of these pennies were minted that year, not all were created equal. In fact, hidden among them are rare versions with subtle errors, minting anomalies, and characteristics so unusual that they've become the stuff of legend in the coin-collecting world. Now, let's talk about what makes certain 1971 D pennies valuable. First, we have error coins. These are coins that slip through the minting process with mistakes. Some have double dies, where the text and date look like they've been stamped twice, slightly off-center. Others have off-metal strikes, where the coin was accidentally made using the wrong material. And then there are off-center coins, where the design doesn't sit properly on the coin's face. Second, we have high-grade examples. Most pennies from 1971 have been passed around, dropped, scratched, and worn down from decades of circulation. But a penny that was pulled straight from a roll and carefully preserved in uncirculated condition? That's a different story. Coins graded MS-66, MS-67, or even higher by professional grading services are incredibly rare, and extremely desirable to collectors. Then there's the truly unusual, a perfect storm of rarity, condition, and error. That's the kind of coin that goes from being just a penny, to a prized piece worth thousands. Now let's imagine this. You're sorting through an old coin jar. You come across a 1971 D penny. It looks a little shinier than the others. Maybe you weigh it, examine it under a magnifying glass, and start to notice something strange, a doubling on the date, or maybe the letters in Liberty look shadowed. The detail is sharper than you remember. The coin has no wear. Your heart starts racing, because what you might have just found is one of the rarest and most valuable 1971 D pennies in existence. And here comes the part you've been waiting for. One of these coins, flawless, preserved in pristine condition, and bearing an extremely rare minting error, has been valued at a staggering $50,000. Yes. You heard that right. 1 cent, worth $50,000, and it's not just a myth. These coins exist. They've been sold at auction. They've made headlines. And the best part? They're still out there. Some are buried in old collections, some forgotten in drawers, and maybe, just maybe, one is sitting in a jar in your home right now. So the next time you come across a 1971 D penny, don't pass it by. Take a closer look. It might just be your lucky day. Second rare coin, we're going to take a closer look at a penny that millions of people have seen, spent, and forgotten about, the 1966 United States 1-cent coin. Yes, we're talking about the humble Lincoln penny. You've probably passed by hundreds of them without a second thought. But this specific penny, the one stamped with the year 1966, has a few secrets you might want to know, because under the right circumstances, it could be worth more than you'd ever imagine. Let's rewind a bit. The year is 1966. The Beatles are on the radio, gas is just 32 cents a gallon, and America is deep in the space race. It's a time of change, not just in culture and politics, but even in the coins we carried in our pockets. Now, if you're a coin collector, or even just someone with a passing interest, you might know that something unusual was happening at the US Mint around that time. Just 1 year earlier, in 1965, the Mint made a big move. They decided to temporarily remove all mint marks from US coins. That meant no little D for Denver, no S for San Francisco, just the year, plain and simple. Why? It was part of an effort to reduce coin hoarding and help ease a national coin shortage. Sounds simple enough, right? But this move had unexpected consequences, because when you remove mint marks, it becomes harder to trace where a coin was made, and that makes it even more fascinating for collectors. Add in the fact that 1966 was a transitional year in US coinage, and you've got a recipe for mystery and potential value. Let's talk about what you should look for in a 1966 penny. First, the basics. Like most pennies since 1959, the obverse side features Abraham Lincoln, the 16th President of the United States. It's a classic design, dignified, sharp, and timeless. On the reverse, you'll find the Lincoln Memorial, a symbol of national pride. But beyond the design, there are details hidden in the metal that make this coin special. You see, although the vast majority of 1966 pennies were struck in copper and circulated widely, not all of them are created equal. Some 1966 cents were struck with subtle errors, like double dies, where parts of the text or the date appear to be stamped twice. Others may have been struck off-center, have weak or missing design features, or even, though very rarely, have been struck on the wrong type of planchet, like a dime blank. And then there's condition. Most of the 2.2 billion pennies minted in 1966 have long since been scratched, dinged, and dulled from years of use. But a very small number were preserved in mint state. That means no signs of wear, no blemishes, just that original, bright luster. These coins are incredibly rare. And the higher the grade, especially coins graded MS 65 or higher, the more valuable they become. Now let's imagine this. You're going through a box of old change your grandparents kept for decades. You pick up a penny and notice the date, 1966. At first, it looks like any other coin. But something about it catches your eye. It has a shine to it. You take a closer look, maybe weigh it, maybe inspect the lettering under a magnifying glass. And suddenly, you see it, a doubling on, "In God We Trust," or maybe an unusually sharp strike. It looks untouched by time, and in that moment, you realize, you might just be holding a piece of American history that collectors are desperate to find, because a 1966 United States 1-cent coin, in flawless condition and with the right combination of error and rarity, has been valued at an astonishing $70,000. Yes, that's right. 1 penny, just one, can be worth $70,000, and the most incredible part? These coins are still out there. They're hiding in drawers, in old jars, in childhood collections, just waiting to be discovered by someone who knows what to look for. So the next time you come across an old penny, take a moment. Check the date. Check the condition. Because you never know when you'll find the coin that turns out to be the treasure of a lifetime. Third expensive coin, we're talking about the 1960 United States 1-cent coin. That's right, just a penny. But don't let its humble appearance fool you. Because hidden within the coins minted that year are some extremely rare and highly sought-after variations that have collectors and investors racing to get their hands on them. So, if you've got a coin jar collecting dust somewhere, this might be the video that makes you dive headfirst into it. Let's set the stage. It's the start of a brand new decade, 1960. The Cold War is heating up, Elvis Presley is ruling the airwaves, and the American spirit is booming with innovation and energy. Amid all that, the U.S. Mint is busy producing one of the most widely used coins in the country. The Lincoln cent. The front, or obverse, features that iconic image of Abraham Lincoln, designed by Victor David Brenner, a design that had been in use since 1909. On the back, or reverse, you have the familiar Lincoln Memorial, a strong, proud symbol of the American Republic. But here's where things get interesting. Not all 1960 pennies are the same. That year, two different versions of the date were released into circulation, a large date and a small date variety. And this, my friends, is where rarity starts to enter the picture. At first glance, the difference might be hard to spot. But if you know what to look for, it jumps out. On the small date variety, the number 0 in the date is narrower, and the tops of the 1 and 9 are more aligned. It's a subtle change, but a big deal. Because certain versions, especially the 1960 small date from the Philadelphia Mint, are far rarer than the others. Now, let's throw another twist into the mix. Just like with many other coins, mint errors from 1960 add even more value. We're talking about double dies, repunched mint marks, and even transitional planchet errors. Coins that have these kinds of quirks instantly stand out to collectors. Why? Because they're accidents that were never supposed to exist, which makes them incredibly unique. Now let's talk about condition. Most 1960 pennies have been rattling around in pockets, drawers, and coin jars for decades. They've been dropped, scratched, worn down, and lost their original luster. But on the rarest occasions, someone tucked a few away in rolls or envelopes and forgot about them. These untouched, mint state coins, especially the rare varieties, can be absolute goldmines. Imagine this. You're going through a box of old coins passed down from a relative. You come across a few 1960 pennies. They look normal at first, but something catches your eye. One has a slightly different date shape. It's crisp, clean, untouched by time. You pull out a magnifier, check the details, and then your heart skips a beat, because what you might be holding in your hand is a rare 1960 small date penny, in mint condition, with an unusual strike or error, and that's when the real magic begins, because a 1961 cent coin, in pristine condition, with a rare date variation or mint error, has been known to fetch as much as $100,000. That's right. $100,000. For a penny. A coin that most people wouldn't even bother to bend down and pick up off the ground could turn out to be a once-in-a-lifetime discovery, and the best part? These coins are still out there, waiting to be found. Sitting in old collections, hiding in forgotten jars, or maybe already in your possession, you just haven't looked closely enough. So, if you've got any 1960 pennies lying around, now is the time to pull them out, take a closer look, and see what secrets they might be hiding. You could be holding a six-figure treasure and not even know it. Especially, let's talk about the 1970 United States 1-cent coin. Now, I know what you're thinking. It's just a penny, right? We drop them, step over them, throw them in jars, and forget they exist. But the truth is, some of these humble little coins are hiding massive surprises. And the 1970 Lincoln cent? That's one of the most underrated, overlooked, and quietly valuable coins in U.S. history. So sit back, and let's unravel the mystery. The year is 1970. The Beatles have just broken up, the Apollo 13 mission captures the world's attention, and the world is shifting fast. Meanwhile, the U.S. Mint is continuing its tradition of stamping out the Lincoln cent, which had already been in circulation for over 60 years at this point. The front, of course, features President Abraham Lincoln, with his time-tested profile and the famous words, "In God We Trust," arching above. On the back? The stately Lincoln Memorial, complete with its columns and steps. Simple. Classic. Familiar, but here's where things start to get very, very interesting. In 1970, the Mint produced pennies in 3 different places: Philadelphia, Denver, and San Francisco. Each of those mints left behind their own unique identifiers, either a tiny D or S just below the date, or none at all for Philadelphia. And among these, the 1970 S pennies have become legendary. Why? Because of the small date and large date varieties. To the untrained eye, these differences are subtle. But to a collector, they're everything. The small date version of the 1970 S penny has a slightly higher 7 in the date, and the Liberty on the coin often appears weaker or less defined. It's a small visual change, but one that transforms an ordinary coin into a highly collectible piece of history. but it doesn't stop there. In addition to these varieties, some 1970 cents were struck with remarkable minting errors, like double dies, where parts of the coin's lettering appear shadowed or duplicated. One of the most famous of these is the 1970 small date Lincoln cent with a double die reverse, where the entire United States of America and 1 cent appear to be struck twice. And that error alone makes collectors sit up straight. Add in coins with high grades, we're talking pristine, mint state examples that have never seen a day of circulation, and now you're dealing with serious rarity. Most coins from 1970 have been circulated, tossed in pockets, dropped on sidewalks, rattled around in drawers for decades. But once in a while, someone stashed away a roll, or a mint set, and inside might be one of these rare variations, untouched by time. And imagine this, you're sifting through your grandfather's old coin collection. Or maybe you picked up a roll of old pennies at a garage sale. You flip through them and see 1970s. Your eyes narrow. The 7 looks a little higher. Liberty looks faint. You pull out a magnifier, maybe do a quick search, and your heart starts to race. Could it be? Could you be holding one of the rarest 1 cent coins of the modern era? Because here's the truth, a 1971 cent coin, especially the rare small date San Francisco Mint version, struck with a double die and preserved in near perfect condition, has sold for as much as $45,000. That's right. 1 penny. 1 coin. $45,000. A coin that once bought a stick of gum could now buy you a car, or a down payment on a house. And the best part? These coins are still out there. They're hiding in collections, jars, and even inside old change you might already have. All it takes is a little knowledge and a careful EYE.so. What are you waiting for? Check those coin rolls. Dig into your drawers. Look closely at every 1970 penny you come across. Because what looks like ordinary pocket change could be a life-changing find. Now, we're diving into a fascinating piece of American history, the 1976 United States 1 cent coin. While this may seem like just another penny, there's much more to this coin than meets the eye. Stick with me as we explore the hidden value behind this seemingly simple cent and why it could be worth a small fortune. The year 1976 was a significant one in the United States. It marked the 200th anniversary of the signing of the Declaration of Independence, and the country was gearing up for its bicentennial celebrations. There were parades, fireworks, and a renewed sense of national pride. And for the U.S. Mint, 1976 was also a milestone year, as they decided to commemorate the occasion with special coin designs across the board. But when we look at the 1976 penny, there's no official bicentennial theme on it, like we see with other denominations, such as the quarter or half dollar. Instead, the 1976 penny was simply minted with the traditional design featuring Abraham Lincoln on the obverse and the Lincoln Memorial on the reverse. However, the significance of the 1976 penny goes far beyond the bicentennial theme. This particular penny has become a highly sought-after item for collectors due to several unique features that make it stand out from other years. The first thing you need to know is that the 1976 penny was minted in 2 primary locations, Philadelphia and Denver. The Philadelphia Mint produced pennies without a mint mark, while the Denver Mint produced pennies with the familiar D mint mark. So, if you come across a 1976 penny without a mint mark, it means it was struck in Philadelphia. But here's where things start to get really interesting. In 1976, there were reports of a small number of pennies being struck with a double die, a minting error where the coin is struck twice, leading to a visible doubling of the date or the inscriptions on the coin. The 1976 penny was particularly vulnerable to this type of error because of the high number of coins being produced in celebration of the bicentennial. These double die pennies are extremely rare, and if you happen to find one, you're holding something truly special. What makes the 1976 penny even more intriguing is its condition. As you may know, coins that have been in circulation for years tend to become worn down and lose their original luster. However, a mint state or uncirculated 1976 penny, one that was never used in circulation, can be worth much more than the typical coin. These pristine, uncirculated pennies are harder to find, as they were often used in daily transactions, but collectors are always on the lookout for these well-preserved pieces, but that's not all. Some 1976 pennies, especially those with mint errors like off-center strikes, can also fetch impressive prices. Imagine discovering a 1976 penny that's slightly misaligned, or perhaps the die was damaged when it was struck, creating an uneven design. These types of minting mistakes create coins that are one of a kind and highly desirable to collectors. In the world of numismatics, a rare mint error can cause a coin's value to skyrocket. Now, let's talk about why these coins, especially the rare ones, are worth so much. The key to their value lies in their rarity and demand. As time goes on, fewer and fewer of these rare coins are available in circulation, and that increases their value significantly. Coins in mint condition, with special features like double dies or mint errors, can sell for hundreds or even thousands of dollars, depending on their grade and the market demand, and here's where it gets exciting. If you happen to own a 1976 penny in exceptional condition, whether it's a double die error or just a perfect example of a well-preserved coin, you could be sitting on a valuable treasure. It's not just a penny, it's a rare piece of history. So, what's the most impressive value we've seen for a 1976 penny? Hold on to your hats, because a 1976 penny with the right features, in mint condition, has been known to sell for as much as $40,000. Yes, you heard that correctly, $40,000 for a single penny. Now, that's a lot of value packed into a tiny coin. Who would have thought that something so small could be worth so much? So, the next time you're going through your change, don't overlook the 1976 pennies. Take a closer look, because you never know when you might be holding a rare gem worth a fortune. Last unique coin, we're diving into the fascinating world of a very special penny, the 1982 United States 1-cent coin, specifically the 1982 D variety. While this coin may seem like just another penny in your jar, it has some unique features that make it extremely valuable to collectors. Stick with me until the end, because what we're about to talk about could be worth more than you might expect. Let's set the scene for a moment. The year is 1982, and America is in the midst of a significant transition. The world was witnessing major shifts in technology, politics, and culture. On the surface, 1982 may not seem like a year for monumental change in the world of coins, but in reality, it marked a major turning point in U.S. coinage history. Why? Because it's the year the U.S. Mint decided to change the composition of the 1-cent coin. For years, pennies had been made from 95% copper and 5% zinc. But due to rising copper prices, the U.S. Mint started looking for a more cost-effective solution. In 1982, the Mint switched the composition of the penny, reducing the amount of copper in the coin. This change is why there are two distinct types of 1982 pennies, those made with the old copper composition and those made with the new copper-plated zinc composition. This change created an intriguing situation, where two versions of the same year's penny exist, and knowing which one you have can make all the difference. So, let's focus on the 1982 D penny, minted at the Denver Mint. The first thing you'll notice is that this coin features the classic Abraham Lincoln portrait on the obverse and the Lincoln Memorial on the reverse, just like other pennies. But what sets the 1982 D penny apart is the composition and weight, and here's where the fun begins. Before the change, the copper pennies weighed about 3.11 grams, but after the switch to the zinc composition, they weighed only 2.5 grams. So, a key indicator of a 1982 D penny's worth is whether it's made from the older copper composition or the newer zinc one. The copper version is rarer, and this is where things get really interesting for collectors. To make matters even more exciting, error coins play a significant role in boosting the value of certain 1982 D pennies. If you're lucky enough to find one of these rare mistakes, you could be holding a coin that is worth a lot more than just 1-cent errors. Like off-center strikes, double strikes, and die cracks are common in coins that are not properly minted, and collectors go absolutely crazy for these unique variations. In fact, even small, seemingly insignificant errors can send a coin's value soaring, but there's another twist to the 1982 D penny story. While the Mint made millions of these coins, not all of them are in great condition. Over the years, most pennies have been in circulation, passed from hand to hand, tossed in piggy banks, or simply forgotten. But if you can find a 1982 D penny in mint state, meaning it's in pristine condition, then you're looking at something incredibly valuable. Coins that were kept in excellent condition, especially the rare copper versions, are highly sought after by collectors. Now, let's take a moment to discuss exactly how much a 1982 D penny could be worth. When it comes to rare coins, condition is everything. A well-preserved 1982 D penny, especially one with the older copper composition and any rare mint errors, could easily fetch thousands of dollars at auction or from interested collectors. But the absolute jackpot? If you find a high-grade 1982 D copper penny with the right mint error, you could be looking at a price of $30,000. Yes, you heard that right, $30,000 for a single penny. That's the potential value of a 1982 D penny if you're fortunate enough to find one of the rare copper versions, with a mint error, and in outstanding condition. It's a perfect example of how a seemingly ordinary coin can turn into an extraordinary find. So, before you toss that penny into a jar or let it slip through your fingers, take a second to really examine it, take a look at the weight, check the mint mark, and inspect for any unusual features or errors. It could very well be worth more than you ever imagined. If you enjoyed this deep dive into the 1982 D penny and want to learn more about valuable coins, be sure to hit that like button, subscribe to the channel, and turn on notifications so you never miss out on discovering hidden treasures in the world of numismatics. Also, leave a comment below if you've ever come across a rare 1982 penny, or any other valuable coin, because we'd love to hear about your findings. Thanks for watching, and as always, happy hunting and happy collecting.